to chapter 114. And God said, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Morot B'Rkiah
Rabbi,
Shamayim.
there's no sound.
No sound? Is there no sound? You can't hear me?
I'm able to hear you.
Yeah, everybody else can hear. Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to text them. Okay.
Okay.
Vayomer Elokim Yehi Moros B'Rkiah Shamayim. And God said, let there be lights in the heavens of the sky, on the firmament of the heavens, to distinguish between the day and the night. And the signs, they shall be for signs, and for the festivals, and for days, and for years. Let's see what Rashi says about this verse. Yehimo wrote, let there be lights. Rashi talks about, well, 1 second. Weren't the lights created back on day one? On day one it said, Vayomer Elokim Yehi, or God said, let there be light. That's the first words that God said. The first words God said were, let there be light. And now what's God need to create? So Rashi says they were created on the first day, and now on day 4, that's today, and God commanded them lehitalot barakia, to be suspended in the sky. L'chein kol toldot shamayim v'aretz, all the toldot of the heaven and the earth, nivru, all the things generated from heaven and earth, nivru miyom rishon, were created on the first day. V'kol echad ve'echad nikba bayom shenigzar alav, and each and every one was fixed on the day which was decreed to be fixed. So God is now saying all the things were created on the first day, and they were fixed. All the things of heaven and earth were created on the first day, but it was only fixed in the earth, in the heavens, or wherever it was supposed to be fixed on the day it was said. That's why it states et hashamayim l'rabot toldotehem, to include that which was generated, ve'et ha'aretz. So basically, that the Torah says that they were created on the first day, but they were fixed, whatever that means, on this day.
How was all the grass, vegetables, and seeds, trees, fruits, and all that, how did that come about if they weren't there yet?
What's your question?
Well, if you read chapter 11 and 12, for example, or even if you want to read 20, 11 to 4.
Verses, you mean verses?
11 and 12, I mean, it's basically talking about the evening. 13 talks about evening, and it was morning, and the third day. How do you get that?
How do you have evening if there's no light?
And how do you get plants and animals?
Well, the animals weren't created yet.
Well, they plant some seeds, plants.
Right.
So it's a bit out of order. Let's put it that way.
And also, we're not sure, what does Rashi mean? Hello. What does Rashi mean when he says things were created and just suspended? What does he mean when he says that they were generated?
Copernicus. So,
when did Copernicus live? Not when Rashi lived. Rashi lived from 1040 to 1105. Yeah. Oh, Jerry, you had a question?
Yes. Why did God have to create darkness? Darkness is simply the absence of light. When there's no sun available, it gets it becomes dark. You don't have to create darkness.
Where does it say God created darkness? Where does it say God created darkness, Jerry?
Well, there was light and darkness the first day.
Yeah, but it says, on the first day, it says, the land was filled with darkness. He didn't create it. That was the absence of light. And then God said, let there be light. It never says that God, oh, we leave that outside. Oh yeah, you can take it in. It just says that God created light. It never says that God created darkness.
Okay, thank you.
That answers your question that
Yes, it
people are
does.
asking, how could God allow like these terrible things to exist in the world? God didn't create them. That was what man created.
Well, it says in chapter, in verse 2, when darkness was upon the face.
Yeah, it
of the
wasn't
deep,
created.
they are red.
That's the absence of light. When there was light, you could notice the darkness from the contrast. But God never did create, it never says God created darkness. Right?
It's a sinus city.
What's a sign of sin?
We live in sinus.
Oh, you mean I
city.
have a sinus thing?
I always,
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I don't know. I just
never had it before.
This is like something I just got the last 2 minutes. Um,
I mean, the interesting thing is that you have darkness, you have then God hovering over the surface of the water. So
Yeah.
all that implies it wasn't created by God, it was here.
well, it said, well, God talks about the water, how the water got there. That Rashi spoke about yesterday. But you're right that the darkness, it's implied that it was not created by God. It's just the absence of light. And now the very first words God say are let there be light, which means it's our responsibility to create the light. And God said, Berakia Shemayim, let there be lights. Yehimo wrote. Rashi says it's missing a letter Vav. Why? Because Wednesday is a bad day. Chasar Vav Ksiv. It's missing a Vav because Wednesday is a bad day. Al Shahayu Yom Me'ira Lipo Askara Batinokos. It's a day where children, it's a day of curses because children become infected with diphtheria. It's like type of pneumonia, I think. Not sure, but I think if you look it up, diphtheria, I think is like a type of pneumonia, like you cough a lot, you can't breathe properly. That's where we learned Barviu ayu misanim al askara shel tipol betinokos. Also, so Wednesdays they used to fast so that they don't contract this disease. I want to mention also that we announced that tomorrow is communal fast day, and so this is coming from rabbis across the spectrum. I've never seen anything like this in all my time, that Reform and conservative rabbis and liberal Orthodox rabbis have organized a communal fast, and also Rav Shechter. My son told me that Rav Shechter is encouraging everybody to fast tomorrow as part of Yom Kippur Katan. So basically, everybody is fasting. Since we're talking here about Rashi about fasting, everyone's fasting as part of solidarity with the people in Israel, or Jewish people, Am Yisrael Chai. So I don't have to say more, but that's why everyone's fasting. So we're not. I think it's pretty clear we're not fasting to stop the war. We're fasting to let Israel do what it needs to do, to make sure that there's no more killings from Hamas. Okay, so now he says that let there be lights, to separate between day and night. Rashi says, Misha Nignas Haor Rishon, that there was an initial light, which when God created, that light was hidden away. So there was an initial light when God created the world, but we said yesterday in verse 4 that light was so powerful, it was too powerful for the world to handle that light. So God had to hide that light for many years until the time of the Messiah. So the original light was hidden away, but during the 7 days of creation, or during the 6 days of creation, some say, the light and the original light and darkness functioned, one by day and one by night. So well, this is how most understand this. So on the first day, the light of creation was set aside, and because it was too powerful. So what does it mean in verse 5 when it says that there was evening and there was morning, as Steve asked? So that means that light and darkness did not function at the same time. But it was on the fourth day that the day and night came under the domination of the sun and the moon. I mean, it's a little bit tricky to figure it out. I agree with you. Mayuo tot, and the light and the sun and the moon are signs to tell us about the festivals and the days and the years. So they are signs. We have what type of calendar do the Jews have? We have what's called a luni-solar calendar. The months are based upon the moon, the days are based upon the sun, and the years are based upon the sun. So we have what's called a luni-solar calendar. It's not just based on the moon, and it's not just based on the sun.
How can the years be based on the sun if there are more years than in the solar calendar?
I'm sorry?
The solar calendar counts years.
Right. So therefore, the years are based upon the sun, because the certain holidays need to come out in certain seasons of the year. So therefore, we'll adjust the moon to make sure, we'll adjust the holidays to make sure that based upon the seasons of the sun. So to make sure that Pesach will always fall out in the spring. Now, unlike the Muslims, which are purely based upon the moon, therefore Ramadan can come out in the summer or the winter. But our holidays are connected to the seasons. We'll never have, even though we're based upon the moon, we'll never have Pesach in the fall. It's not allowed. It's not allowed. So therefore, we have all three things.
Well, the Samaritans have a different calendar, you know that.
Yeah, but they're not Jewish.
I
So,
think they are.
well, that's not my
And
problem.
then even in the first century AD, there were different calendars than there are now. They kept adjusting.
Well, the rabbis used to make the calendars based upon the court and witnesses, but then Hillel in the 3rd century established a calendar for all.
Correct,
So-
3rd century AD.
We say CE, but okay.
AD, CE, common era.
So there we go. So So when the lights are stricken, i.e., when they have eclipses, Simon Rahu, it's a bad sign for the world. That's what they said. As it says, Meosos Hashamayim al techatu. Don't be afraid from the signs. When you perform the will of God, you don't need to be afraid of the punishments. And then it states, Moadim, and for the festivals, Al Shem Hayatid, for the future, Shatidim Yisrael, Mitzvot HaMoados. The Jewish people will in the future be commanded about the festivals. Mehem Nimnim L'Moed Alvana. They are counted, their date is fixed by the birth of the moon. So the festivals are dependent upon when the new moon is declared. Uliyamim, but the days Shimush Hachama Chatzi Hayom, V'Shimush Halavana Chatzi Hayom Arei Yom Shalom. How do we get a full day? By taking the moon and the sun and putting it together. Now, that's how we get a full day. And the shanim and the years. בסוף 365 ימים ורביע יום יגמרו מהלכן מ-12 מזלזות המשרתים אותם, והיא שנה. So Rashi says something here, that the sun makes its passage through the 12 constellations every 365 days and 1/4 of a day. That's the length of a solar year. Now we know that the earth is what moves, but still it's the same idea, that it's 365 days and 1/4 until the earth and the sun go back to the exact same spot where they are every year.
Yeah, because he was following the Ptolemaic system.
Yeah, but but still it's the same number of days.
Same idea.
V'hishana, that's a year. V'chozrim pam shniyam matzilim v'savei b'galgal b'malchan rishon, and then it goes back and repeats it. So therefore, there are 365 days and 1/4 and 1/4 of a day. So basically, every 4 years, you're going to lose a day in the solar calendar. Whereas in the lunar calendar, if you have a luni-solar calendar, you're going to lose 11 1/4 days every year. And so therefore, you have to make a leap year much more frequently and add a month. That's what the rabbis do. And do you know how often we do a leap year? Yeah, so you have a mnemonic to remember. It's called Guach Adzat. You have a calendar system, and in this calendar system, in the 3rd, 6th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 17th, 19th year of the cycles, you add the 30 days extra of the leap year. And so then you start again. And then in the 3rd year, you add it again. So I don't know what year we are in this cycle, but this year will be a leap year. So I don't know which of the Guach Chadzat years we're in, but this year is a leap year.
So you get an extra month.
Yeah, that's why this year, when the holiday of Shavuot comes, the Jewish day schools are already over, already completed.
No double parshas.
No double parshas this year?
I don't know. It's less.
Well, at least 4 less, right? I hadn't thought about that. That makes it easier to lane. I wasn't even going to be worried about it. I decided I'm not worried about the laning anymore. I figure I'm a rabbi, I could just do it myself. All right. And they shall be lights in the heaven to illuminate the earth, and let it be so. Rashi says, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam v'shel kol minim b'dvaro. Odzo yishamshu. They shall serve for this also, meaning the lights. Sheya'iru l'olam. In addition, for the lights being something that tells us the calendar, its also purpose is functionality. It's supposed to illuminate the earth. Meaning the world, not the earth, but the world. Now we have the next verse. And God made 2 lights, the greater light, 2 great lights. The greater light was to serve during the day, and the lesser light was to serve at night, and the stars. Rashi says, why does it say there were 2 great lights? Shavim nivra'u. These 2 lights were created at exactly equal in size. V'nisma'ata halavana. And then the moon became reduced. Al shakit rega, because it complained. And it said, I'efshar l'shnei melachim sheyishtamshu b'keter echad. This is the Gemara in Chulin. The moon, God created the moon and the sun equal. And then the moon goes to God and says, you can't have two kings ruling over the world. Only one of us can really be in charge, the main light. And God said, you're right. I'll make the sun the main light. So then the moon complained to God. And so God gave the moon something special. What did God give the moon? The Rosh Chodesh. So the sun is the dominant light, but the moon is that we celebrate on Rosh Chodesh. And the stars. Al yedei shemiet et halavana hirba tziva'eha la'afistata. Because he reduced the moon, therefore he made its hosts many to conciliate it. Because God reduced the moon, he gave it a lot of assistants. What are those assistants? The stars. Verse 20. Vayomer. Why did I say verse 20? Verse 17. Vayitenu samokim b'rakei hashamayim. God placed them in the firmament. Va'ir ha'aretz, to illuminate the earth. V'mshol bayom u'v'layot, to dominate at day and night. U'avdil bein ha'or bein ha'choshech, to distinguish between the light and the darkness. Va'yer Elokim ki tov. God saw that it was good. So we see that God says we have to make a havdalah. We have to make a distinction between light and darkness. And God said that that was good. There is a distinction. There is a distinction between light and darkness. And there is a distinction between good and evil. And it was morning and it was evening. It was evening, it was morning, it was the fourth day. Now we go to day 5. Vayomer Elokim Yishurtu Hamayim Sheretz Nefesh Chaya Va'ofi Al Feif Al Aretz Al Pnei Reki Hashemayim. Let the waters Yishurtu, let the waters teem. Yishurtu Hamayim Sheretz, with teeming creatures, swarming souls. Rashi says the oaf, and something that flies, the Feif Al Aretz, fowl, on the face of the expanse of the heaven. Rashi says, Kol davar chai, what's a sheretz? Any living creature, she'eino gavoa min haaretz, which is not high off the ground, is called a sheretz. So a sheretz here refers to anything that's not high off the ground. Ba'of, among the flying creatures, like zvuvim, like the flies. Ba'ashkatzim, among the crawling creatures, kigon nimmalim, the ants, the chipushim, and the beetles, v'toa'im, and the worms, umbabriot, and the other creatures, kigon choled, the achbar, the weasel and the mouse, the chomet, the snail, mechayotzi behem, and similar things. We call adagim.
Could have skipped the snakes.
What?
You could have skipped mosquitoes.
No, I don't think so. I think that the mosquitoes serve a very important purpose.
Or eating fish.
Spread disease.
Yeah,
Kill population.
disease is important. God created the disease to get rid of. No, we can't be in year 8. We're in a leap year.
Just as nice.
Oh, guach, right? Yeah, we're in year 8. Well, I don't know. Look it up. I'm pretty sure if you look up on the internet, what salutary purpose do mosquitoes serve? I'm sure they do something. First of all, spreading disease could have some positive functions we don't know about. What? Can make us, for example, more immune to other diseases. Maybe that's how we create immunity. I also find it very interesting that the creation of the world follows the same way like the evolutionary creation, according to the Bible, that we go from less sophisticated creatures to more sophisticated creatures. Yes, Jerry, you have a question.
I read someone gave an explanation of why there are mosquitoes. Mosquitoes bug the hell out of certain wild beasts who eat grasses, and if they eat all the grass, if they stay in one place and eat all the grass, it diminishes that portion of the earth. So the mosquitoes, in bothering these animals, they move on to another section of the earth to eat grass, and
There you go.
in this way, the grass survives.
Right? That makes that sound. I mean, I have no idea knowing if you're right, but that sounds good to me. But it sounds like the mosquitoes have a purpose. Although I do say, fine, but why does it have to bite me?
Good point.
By the way, some people don't get bit at all by mosquitoes. My wife will never get bit by a mosquito. Or maybe she gets bit, but she's not allergic to it. She has never had like a mosquito bite that's bothered her.
Right.
The Gemara says Yatushki Demcha, that you should know that it was created on the 5th day, and you were only created on the 6th day. So that should create humility.
Yeah, it should definitely teach us humility. That's one of the things. Why did God create the gnat? The Gemara in Gittin tells us that God created the gnat. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Gemara in Gittin tells us that God created the gnat because Titus was the Roman emperor. He was so arrogant. He said, "You can't defeat me," and so God sent the smallest creature that He had, the gnat, to go and go inside his nose, and gave him basically a parasite inside the brain. So this is the message from the smallest creature. Yes, Sarah, you had a question.
Oh, not a question, just in addition, I'm also reminded of the story about David HaMelech, where he basically asked the exact same question. Why do we have mosquitoes? I think there was also one, why do we have spiders?
Right.
And then at a certain point, he was in hiding or fleeing from his pursuers, and then a mosquito bit the person who was pursuing him and he escaped. So it's definitely questions we've been talking about a long time.
Right, I remember that Gemara. And they said, what do we learn from each creature? From the ants, we learn hard work. And you're very nice, Sarah, very nice. Yashikoach. All right, so let us stop the recording here and have a mincha.
Did you see